Write down everything that you suck at and then better those things and learn some skills. I admire people that have overcome everything despite the fact that they had all this stuff happen to them. Like, we're still here and I'm going to show up. And you say you're going to do it and you do it. I am going to be the first billionaire in my family. My kids are going to be billionaires and my grandkids are going to be trillionaires. We're going to look back and they're going to have a beautiful portrait of me and say, that woman has a story.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests I got coming on this year. Without further ado, let's get right into this one. Maria, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity, the pleasure to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, tell us your elevator pitch. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, have you ever had such a great business idea and you get so motivated and so riled up, but when you realize all the work that it takes, you just kind of lose that motivation because it's extremely overwhelming? I have, and it's extremely disappointing to know that you have such a great idea and you just cannot take action. And so I coach people how to take action and have mental toughness so that they can achieve the life that they always wanted.
Amazing. So Maria, before you got into going, doing what you're doing now and all the investing in the businesses and everything, right? Take us back in the time machine. What was little Maria like growing up? I know you have quite the story. Take us all the way back in time.
All the way back? Mexico?
All the way back. Take us back.
Okay, so my earliest memory was in Mexico City, and we were very poor. I remember my feet used to hurt, and I just didn't understand. I was like, my feet hurt. And I told my mom, and she took me to buy some shoes, and I remember like walking around and new shoes, and it was almost like really exciting. Like, when you buy yourself something new, I was just very excited, but I didn't really get that as often, right? And I remember like later on, I was like, I complained again, like my shoes hurt, and so my mom was like, "You're gonna have to wait because I don't have money." She told me in Spanish, "No tengo dinero, te vas a tener que esperar." My feet hurt for the longest time, and so the concept of money was always like, what do you mean you don't have money? Like, I need shoes. I don't care. I'm a kid, right? And that early on, like, idea of I don't have money was like very perplexing to me. And so I started seeing the world differently. Like, what else are we missing that we don't have money for? And so providing now, the life that my kids have now, it's an abundance because coming from Mexico and then moving to America, and America is very different. People don't understand. Like, it's a whole different world. Like, for Mexicans that live there, it's like the promised land for Christians. Like, the streets are made of gold, and there's abundance, and you're like, in Mexico, like, dude, we didn't have food. We didn't have a refrigerator, first of all. Like, that was not a thing. And we didn't have running hot water and like abundance. You could turn on the shower and like let it run. And in Mexico, it's funny because you turn on the water and it runs for 5 minutes with high pressure. After that, good luck. Like, it's not as here. Like, it's just so different. And I remember like experiencing that back in my day, and then here in America is just like the biggest difference that a lot of times I just look back and I'm like, I'm just so grateful to have central air. I'm like, I am grateful to have a car. Like, I think that's also why they say, gratitude is like the highest vibration. But when you really come from dirt, like, it's just gratitude. Like, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've been successful in a lot of the things that I do, if not all of them, right? Because I mean, I fail like any other person, but I learn. But I think that my gratitude is like, you look outside right now and it's like a beautiful day. There's no one like, shooting people up. I'm not getting kidnapped. Like, I'm safe. I'm just grateful.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's one of the things too I realized, like, I don't take up like I can't believe that I don't believe that you can understand life unless you've been outside the country. Like, if all you know are like these 50 states, right? You don't really know the world. Like, you don't really know what people got going on. Like, a lot of people complain, and something I jokingly say, but also be low key dead serious about is that, yeah, you got first world problems. Like, Deal with it, suck
Yes.
it up, bro. Like a lot of people got first world problems and like, oh my goodness, like I don't know what to wear. Bro, shut up, bro. You have first
Shut
world
up. You got a
problems.
whole closet.
You have a walk-in closet and you talk about I
Exactly.
don't know how what to wear. It's like a lot of the things that people deal with, people don't really know struggle. They don't understand struggle. So
Mm-mm.
they kind of take us back a little bit to Mexico. So at what age, because you said you remember being really young and walking and your feet hurting, at what age did you make the transition from Mexico to living in the States?
I believe it was 1999, if not year 2000. And we moved when my dad went to pick me up, right? And it was just my dad, he lived here in the States, and he was um he was always bringing us back like toys and stuff. And I remember this one time he didn't bring us anything, and I was pretty upset. I was like, where's my toy? And he was like, I got something better, like, you're gonna come with me when I leave. And I didn't understand the concept of him living in another area. I just thought he went out, like he was out the door and that was it. And I remember that when I was leaving, my mom was like, "You're gonna go visit your grandma." And I clearly remember picking up some flowers for her and taking them in my pocket, thinking like, "I'm just gonna go across the street, right? Like I want to go see my grandma." And I remember like getting on a bus and like getting on a really long road trip, and I was like, "When are you gonna get there?" I was antsy, and my dad, like, he was cool, um, but then when we got to like we started walking to this park, and I was like, oh, we're gonna go play. And then we get to a river, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And so he starts like, it was him and my uncle, and they start blowing up like this like thing, like this pool bed, like mattress thing. And they were like, get on. And I was like, no, like I've never been in a body of water. And so I'm freaking out, right? And clearly remember like me just shaking and being very nervous and getting into this like real nasty, muddy, murky green water. And like obviously you have to take your shoes off because your clothes wet, like it weighs you down. And so I'm
Mhm.
sitting there with my feet across this like pool thing. It's like a mattress. And I'm shaking because like there's wind and I'm scared and like it's cold and my body's like trembling, but I'm trying not to tip over the pool thing. And I'm just like, oh my God, like if I fall into this water, I don't know how to swim. Right. And my dad goes under the water and I don't see his head. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm scared. I'm terrified. And I remember my mom used to pray a lot. Like she would get on her knees, very traditional woman, and she would pray. And in that moment, I just remember like praying. Like I started praying to God. I was like, oh my God, like I hope you can hear me. Espero que me escuches. Diosito, ayúdame, por favor. Like, yo no sé qué voy a hacer sin mi papá. Tengo mucho miedo. Like, I was freaking out. And then he comes out and he starts like going across the river. And next thing you know, we're like on the other side. And it was like walking up this muddy hill and the feeling of that mud under my feet in the water. It's like, it's unforgettable. I have thalassophobia because of that. Like, I cannot get in dark waters because of that.
Really,
Yeah.
that's insane. Like that, this
Yeah.
story, like it's something that I was talking to someone the other day, and so my grandpa, not my grandpa, my dad, he immigrated here,
Hmm.
um, by unconventional methods, a while ago, right?
Yeah, I
Right?
know.
Yeah, we don't know if the feds are tapped in, right? We
It's
got
you.
unconventional methods, right? And
Just
so,
it wasn't my. I didn't try to come here, y'all. They brought me. Okay, just saying. I was
and so
invited.
no, but my dad, he came in, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in sixth grade, and I never asked for his
Mhm.
story, and so like someone brought it up
Really?
literally like a couple weeks ago, because it's like I,
Wow.
for me, I don't like bringing up stuff that's underneath the rug if it's not like out of nowhere, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like I never really thought to like for me and my dad, we chop it up now. He was absent
Mhm.
most of my life, but like we chop it up now. We're boys now. Still, I don't look at him as my
Yeah.
dad. I just call him my dad just because like it's easier. Like I'm not gonna call him by his
Yeah.
government name. Like dad is one syllable.
Yeah.
But it's not like I see him
What's
as
up,
a dad.
bro?
Yeah, it's good, bro. And so it's like for me and him, we just chop it up about business now. He has a landscaping company. He's doing well for himself. And like the other day we were talking about
Nice.
like end of the year taxes come around. And so like we're talking about like some tax stuff, and but that's normally what we talk about when we chop it up now. But I never ever
Nice.
asked him for like his story of how he got here, because he got here, as I said, when he was in sixth grade, and he came by himself, like if I'm not mistaken. And so that's pretty much
Yeah,
about it. So thank you for sharing your story. I really do
of
like
course.
gently appreciate that, because it's like it's something that doesn't really get talked about much, like at all. There's not much awareness around it. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, like people come here, but like people don't know how bad and it really gets, and how many lives don't make it across.
yeah.
And then
You know, one thing that I've seen with the people that I meet now, and I asked them like, you know, because one thing that I've been doing this year is sponsoring some families that come from other countries, and
yeah,
they live, you know, and I get to know them and stuff, and I help them, and it's just like their stories. I mean, I know people that have crossed like the forest, and coming from Venezuela, from Honduras, it's scary. It definitely
yeah.
claims lives, and people don't understand that when they say immigrants make the backbone of this country, like they kind of do. They kind of do.
No,
These
they do
people come and pick
100%.
up any job.
Yeah,
Like they will pick up any job. Even, you know, people from all over the country, like all over the world, Asia, India.
it's
Shout
one
out
of
to
those
all
things.
my homies.
Yeah, like for me, it's like we're called the melting pot for a reason. Like
Yeah,
we're literally a bunch of cultures intertwined
yeah,
into one. Like it wouldn't be what it is without all the inter commingling of all these different people from all these different places and all their unique perspectives
yeah,
all coming together for for the most part, one main common goal: a better life, right? And so it's like to kind of progress with the story, right? So you ended up making it successfully, of course, because you're here today, right? You
yeah.
made it across, and so
Yeah, we made it.
we made it across in one piece, right? So
Yeah,
from there, what was the transition like in new countries? I'm assuming you spoke only Spanish
yeah.
prior to like coming. So it's like, what was that transition like, getting acclimated to the states?
Well, coming to like a whole new country, it's like it's a whole game changer. Like John, I'm sure that a lot of people talk about like coming to another country and learning the language, you know, yada yada, and the success story, but they don't understand that when, like, and they put it in simple terms, when I was in elementary, I did not know the language at all. Like the
Mm,
language was like Spanish, and Spanish was it. In my household, we were not allowed to speak any English. And I remember like we were not allowed to cut our hair, we were not allowed to like dye it, we were not allowed to like wear nail polish. It was very traditional, old school Mexican Christian parents. And I
yeah,
had to wear Sunday's best to school. So I stood out like a sore thumb. And actually, I just published a collaborative book. And in the collaborative book, I talk about how that impacted like my childhood, because it was like I I cannot I cannot blend in with these kids, and I was bullied for that, because it was like you don't look like the rest of us and you don't speak the same language. And so when you don't speak the same language, they look at you funny, they call you names, you don't understand what they're saying. They kind of push you aside because you're like, you're the weird kid, right? And
yeah.
so growing up with that kind of culture, it's very hard, and it's very detrimental to a child when they push them aside. And even the teachers, like they'll put you in a separate class because you don't speak the language. And so overcoming that barrier and feeling like inclusiveness with your community is like, I think it's a big part. And so I'm very glad that I learned the language, because if I didn't, I would definitely not have all these opportunities that I
Yeah.
now
So
have.
at what age did you learn? How long did it take for you to learn the English? At least learn
it,
it
it's
enough to
funny.
talk in school.
It's funny enough because kids pick up the language a lot quicker than adults. Adults have like this preconceived notion that it's like it's basically like, okay, I'm stuck in my ways, this is how it is, that's all there is. And kids like me, I picked it up like in the first grade. Like in the first grade, I was like, okay, I get it. But then I think it was like the third grade that I really started to understand it and get fluent conversations and connect with my peers, and I wasn't like as, and then again, I did stop wearing the long skirts, so I think that might have helped a lot.
No, that definitely could probably helped you a ton in going to school. It's like, man, like it's crazy like how kids like good kids are at bullying, and like they'll isolate you very quickly. Very like kids have no heart at all whatsoever.
No, kids are ruthless. They don't care about anyone but themselves. And I've learned that, you know what? That's funny. Out of all the bullies that I had in school, most of them like add me on Facebook. They're like, "Hey, what's up? I'm sorry for bullying you." I'm like,
You
"Really? I had to
actually
go to
got that as like a
therapy,
text
bro."
message?
Like on
Yeah.
my Facebook, they're like, "Hey, like I remember you. I'm so sorry for being mean to you." And I'm like, I took therapy for that, right? Like, what a creep. Like, I'm sorry, bully, when you were little. You were just an ugly kid. Like, thanks. I'm
Like that
special.
makes it feel any better, right? That makes it feel so much
Yeah, it makes
better.
you feel any better. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm,
So
I'm,
all right.
I'm a grown
So
woman now.
fast forward a bit, right? You got acclimated to the country, right? You went through school here. Um, Let me ask you, like, because now you're in entrepreneurship. You just said you have published a collaborative book. You, as I said, you had your
Yeah.
cleaning company. You're coaching now. Like, you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
You're running your family like a boss. Like, what
I'm
was
married.
you're
Everything.
married? It's just like, what was like it like overcoming your mindset growing up in a very traditional household to getting into entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, as you know, isn't, I'm also Dominican and Guatemalan, right? I'm Spanish too. Like that isn't preached
Hey.
as, that isn't preached as much. It's like get your degree and find a good
Yeah.
job and and work, and eventually like my
Yeah.
grandfather, he said like, yeah, I always joke with him, like still to this day, like um
Mhm.
como, oh, yo voy a trabajar como los burros. Right? Like I used to
Vea, voy a
say
trabajar
that.
como un burro para vivir como
Yeah,
un gringo or whatever.
un rey. I used to say.
Yeah.
Right? And so like when I used to work at the restaurant, for anyone who doesn't speak Spanish, like say I'm about to work like a donkey, pretty much. And so every time before I used to go to my restaurant job to go clock in, and like I look at him and jokingly say I'm about to go work like a donkey. And because at the restaurant job, I'm food running. It's 2 floors. It's like
Yeah.
for anyone doesn't know, it's like 2 full flights of stairs. It's not like, 5 steps. It's 2 completely flights of stairs that I have to run with
Yeah.
trays of food with. And when it got busy, I'm just flying around for like sometimes 7, 8 hours straight. And so it's like my that's all my grandparents knew though. It's just like
Yeah.
work until you die type of thing. Like that's the mentality. It's not
Hmm.
about working smarter to try and get ahead. It just you show up, you do your job, that's it. You get paid, and you keep on doing
You
that. Rinse,
stay in
wash,
your lane. You
repeat
be quiet. You don't ask the
until
questions.
yeah, until you literally can't anymore, and you just tip over.
Hmm.
So it's like, what was it like to fast forward a little bit for with the upbringing that you had, getting into entrepreneurship, and at what stage of life did that happen?
It's a really good question. And the fact that you understand that, it's even more remarkable, John, because I feel like, we all know this. Like, okay, you're Latino, you're an immigrant, like I'm bringing my kids here for a better life. And the better life for them is like they get a job, they get as many jobs as they can, they work, and then they send their kids to school because it's free. In Mexico, it's not free. So here they go to school, they graduate, they get their diploma, they go to college, they get in debt. If they don't get in debt, they apply for FAFSA. And if they apply for FAFSA, they can get like small little loans from the community.
Hmm.
But it's not like a big, huge grant. Like when I was like in high school, I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to go live in Maryland and go to like the university and have like a university life. And then I went to the counselor and she was like, I don't think that's going to work for you. You're an immigrant. Your mom doesn't have a stable income. You don't have the requirements that they're going to need for FAFSA. Like, you're just not going to make it that far. And nursing is
Mm.
very expensive. And so she put that, like, she took the blindfold off. And I was like, well, if I can't go to college or anything like that, then what am I doing in school? And I remember like my mom was like, go to school, stay in high school. And I dropped out of high school. I was like, girl, you don't understand. All I'm going to do is waste my time. And that's when I think that the time management came into my mind. Like the concept of time management was like, okay, if I'm sitting here, then what is the point of actually getting a diploma if I cannot go to college like I wanted to? And so I started working, and I remember working and getting into like actually restaurants, like you said, like, oh my God, that was, I remember working at a restaurant was very interesting. When I told my mom, she was like, no, you need to go to school. So when I was in the restaurant industry, I learned that the owner had a better life than me and a better car. And I was like, how did you get a restaurant? Like, I want to get a restaurant too. And so he would always tell me, like, you start with your clientele and you provide great customer service and then you save some money. And so I just started asking questions from the people that were above me. And when I realized that I wanted to be a business owner was when I was in the stripping world, right? I always wanted to be a business owner. Like, I always knew I wanted to like be a business owner, but I think it was more like I don't want to be listening to anyone telling me what to do for the rest of my life, especially when you work for someone, you cap. Like, I remember being 17 and like counting my bills, and I didn't have like money extra for like shampoo. And I was like, dude, how is it that I'm gonna like be a business owner if all I can do is this amount in these hours? Like, it's impossible. So it kind of flipped the switch on me, like investing, real estate at 16. Well, of course, I was like 17, but I had two kids already. So I was like, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. So I think that was where I was like, okay, like, but it was more of a self discovery, me wanting more out of life when that counselor told me, you're just screwed. And I was like, dang. Like, my whole life just crumbled in front of me.
Yeah, but like despite that, you were able to persevere through that and see another way around. And you had a problem solver mindset. Whereas like a lot of people would have heard that and it's like, well, I guess the traditional track it is, and that's all I'm good enough to make out for. And
Yeah, just go to work, right?
yeah, a lot of people don't see that light, and it's something that we're very fortunate to have. And I think everyone has it in them. It's just like certain people need to have different criteria met for that catalyst to spark. And thank God that you're sparked because now we're here today, right? And so at 17, right, you didn't have enough money for shampoo, and you're like, damn. I need to do something better. I need to get, I can't be a business owner like this. Like, I can't even wash my head properly. I don't got enough money. And so, right. So you went from there, and then where did the story start to pick up for you? Where did it start to change around?
My story started to change around when I got an eviction notice on my door. And it said, pay rent or vacate. And it was a huge orange post it on my door after I got out of IHOP. And I would work at IHOP from like 6 in the morning to like 3 p.m. It doesn't matter how long I stayed. I could have stayed there all day. And all I would make was like about 30, 40 bucks. And I was like, this is what I'm going to use for my babysitter. That's it. And I was just so annoyed and I was tired. I was sick and tired of living like that. I was like, this is disgusting. Like, this apartment ain't 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 it.
You can say it.
Like, it ain't shit. Like, I live with cockroaches. My back window's broken. Anybody can just break in. And I was like, I'm tired of this. Like, something needs to change. And so I remember walking into the strip club and I was like, I need a job. And they were like, I was fat. I was fat, by the way. I did not look like this. I was like pretty heavy. And so he looks at me, he goes, have you ever danced before? And I said, no. He goes, well, basically, all you do is like you hop on stage, you move a little, and then someone will come and give you $1 and you get off the stage and that's it. And I was like, oh, that's simple, right? It's like a wet t-shirt contest. And he was like, yeah, something like that. And so I was like, okay, cool. Jesus. Jesus saved me from that place because that place was like a game changer in so many ways. Like, I'm not proud to be a former stripper, but I am
Yeah,
proud that I was able to overcome all those hurdles from drug addiction, alcohol addiction, being involved in the night scene, and having to still be sober to come home to my kids and like
yeah,
being that mental toughness that you are selling your body. Like, it was just so murky and disgusting. Like, but at the same time, it was like it taught me like a lot of confidence. It taught me how to like speak to people. It taught me how to read people. It taught me about business branding. I mean, that whole place was all about branding, because you could have
yeah,
the worst personality, but you had like great looking brand. Everybody was like all over, so I that was like the time where my life changed. And it was, I also tapped into my faith a lot in that time. It was 5 years. And that's pretty much how I saw it, as a stepping stone to build something for myself. Like, I tried to quit so many times, John. so many times. And it was in God's timing that I was able to quit because He was like, not yet. And I would leave and I had to come back. And I was like, damn, I got a job and I don't know. But every time I would get out, I would go to a job. So finally, when I left, it was to build a business, which was my Girl Code fitness brand.
Yeah, that's amazing because it's
Mhm.
like it's one of those things where it's like I learned last year like God, we make plans and God laughs because it's never in our timing, it's in His, and it's like so it's
Yeah.
like making a plan and sticking with it, but knowing that giving yourself enough breathing room because if it's in His will and and part of the plan that it'll happen, and if not, it won't, and it's like all right, how do you stick through when it's not going your way, and just like it's one of those things where it's like it could feel like everything around you isn't going your way. I was wanting to leave the restaurant job like around like February of last year. I finally left June of 2023, and that was about 18 months. Yeah, thank you, thank you. It was right before Create, actually. That's the conference
That
me and Maria went
really.
to in Dallas. Yeah, and so the month before that, I launched my course, and I ended up getting 33
You
people
did tell me
enrolled.
about that.
Yeah, and so
Let's
now
go.
we're in the process right now of planning. So by the time this goes out, my next launch would have already gone out. But January 15th, I'm planning my next launch, and I got some
Nice.
crazy goal. I've been telling a couple people, but I just so it's on record for the podcast. The goal for this launch is 100,000 flat. So it's about 3 times more than I did last time, but it's for
For
me.
one launch.
It's for one launch. The goal is for
Let's
one day.
go.
I want to do it in a day.
Woo!
So I know to know I got to get 67 people enrolled. I get 67 people
Yep.
enrolled, and that's my 100. Ideally, if that's in a day, that would be even crazier because then I'm gonna have my
Six
email
figures in
sequence.
a day.
That's the goal. That's the goal, right?
Woo!
Because I'm gonna have my email sequence going out afterwards,
Yeah.
and so that's gonna be following up with people hopefully so get some. Last time I got 20 that first day, and then I got 13 from emails.
Mm,
So if I get let's say a third are gonna come from emails, I need at least 42 because a third of that is like 21. And so if I get 21, that's 60. Oh no, I need 67. So I need at least 45. I need at least 45 to enroll on the actual day
nice.
one, and then the rest will come through the emails ideally, and that will lead
Ideally.
to the 67 that I need to enroll to get to the 100,000 that I need for my ego. And so
My
that's the goal. Like,
ego.
yeah, that's
But
one thing too. Hmm?
go ahead, go ahead. I'll let
I
you
was
finish.
gonna
I'm
say,
gonna add to.
uh, yeah, I was gonna say like it's okay to feed the ego every once in a while. Like, push yourself a little bit. Like, see what you're made of. See what you can do. And so it's like, all right, I set a really large goal. That's more money than anyone in my family ever made in a year, and I'm trying to make that in a day. So it's like it's still
Sheesh.
like hard to even grasp. It's hard to say. Like I say it, but it's like even still like part of me tingles a little bit because it's like, damn, like whoa, John, stay in your lane. People like us don't make that type of money. Relax yourself, buddy. You still that side of you never ever dies. It never goes away. It's just the other side starts getting louder and braver and stronger, more confident, more skilled, right? And so it's like you always kind of have that in you when you grow up in like a more traditional, blue collar. I feel immigrant family, especially. It's like you're
Yeah,
taught to work. That's all you know. So it's like we start saying numbers like that, like if I were to say that
it's
to anyone in my
surreal.
family, yeah, and if I say that to anyone in your family,
They
it's
don't
like,
believe it. They're like, "Are you selling? Are you selling drugs? What is it that you
yeah,
do
it's like, oh no,
again?"
no, no,
No,
that's not possible. You
I
can't do
don't
that.
know.
What you mean I can't do that? Like I'm trying to make my life better. You gonna stop me? Like, and so yeah, that's
Well,
pretty much it. That's how.
it's like you don't believe in Santa Claus because you've never seen him, but I've seen him. So he's
Yeah,
not real because you've never seen him. Like that's I think that is another. And to add to that, it's a lot of times entrepreneurs or starting entrepreneurs feel like it's gonna be, oh, it's that moment when you get the money, you're gonna be like, ah, but
yeah,
actually it's not that one moment. It's that moment happens due to all the other moments that you were working on so much on the back end. Like your personal brand, going to work, quitting, deciding, making that's a huge decision. And then
Yeah.
like going against what your family has to say about that, because your Latino family is gonna be like, mm-hmm, you're gonna quit your job. Huevon,
Yeah.
get a real
Yeah.
job. And it's like, this is a real job. It's just different.
Yeah, very different. And so like to that point, right? When I first got licensed as a real estate agent, my grandpa used to be like licenciado, licenciado, ahí viene el licenciado, like the license guy, right? And here he comes. And like almost in a way like to kind of like fake mock me in a little bit. And it's like it took a minute for him to come around and actually put some respect on my name. Because then he started seeing my aunts and my uncles, they would see my posts on Facebook and stuff like that. Like, oh, yeah, pero mira, Giancarlo, está ahí en Facebook and yada yada yada, whatever, whatever. And like my uncles and aunts will see me on Facebook and then tell my grandpa because they'll see all my videos and he was like, oh, okay. And then he finally, it took him a while to, but finally put some respect in my name. So it's like, what was that point for you? What was like getting into entrepreneurship with your family? Like, do they still like kind of try to mock or like try to downplay or belittle what you got going on? Or did they eventually come around and, give you the support you deserve?
Uh, it was hard to take me serious because I was a stripper and I
Yeah.
had red short hair and I looked like a wild, undomesticated feline. I was just like a random stray cat. And it was like I had half of my head shaven. How are you gonna take me serious like that? It was just
Yeah.
I was a mess. I will admit I was a mess. It was not a hot mess. I was just a mess. I was lost. I was not in touch with who I was. So it was hard for them to kind of see me in different lens when I went to see them for the first time since that last time in the family reunion. I mean, I show up and I'm well put together and I have, I look like a normal person. My hair's natural color. And they're like either she's gonna show up drunk, or she's gonna show up with liquor, or she's gonna come, eat, and then leave to go party. That was me. And so when they saw me, they were like they were kind of like, what is it that you do again? And so I was
Yeah.
like, well, I had a fitness brand. I started a cleaning company, and now we do Airbnb property management as well. And then I mean, your sister shows up last time to like the reunion or whatever in a blue Ford Focus, all beat up. Now she's showing up to your house in a Mercedes, and you're like, "What the fuck are you selling? Are you a sugar baby?" Like they question. And so
Yeah.
when I tell them like, this is my cleaning company and is what we do, and they see the website and they kind of like they respect me a little, but then they see my Facebook post, like you said, and they see my Instagram that I actually fixed my life and I'm sober. I'm not like freaking crack addict over here anymore. Not that I was on crack, but like I with that red hair, it's very skeptical to even think that someone is sane. And so now they're like, okay, like she has a business, like she has her license and everything, like she's real. They're like, she's not out the wheels. And my mom, I think she sleeps a lot better knowing that I stopped drinking. So
Yeah.
she's she sleeps a lot better. She would always tell me, arregla tu vida, Maria, sienta cabeza, like
Hmm.
fix your life, like fix, get your head right. And I was just like, you know but yeah, they respect me now. But at
Yeah.
first it was like, yeah, okay.
And so during that phase, right, where you were like trying to navigate the world, right? What
That's a
was it
good way to
like,
put it.
right? Or navigate the entrepreneurship world, right? You started all these businesses, whatever. Like, what helped you? What was your support system? Did you have people around you? Like, so for me, when I got into real estate, not too long after, right, I started finding a couple of these little like free mastermind groups with a whole bunch of agents from across the country, and like I got surrounded pretty quickly. And then with my podcast, I started interviewing
Yeah,
people, so I got to talk to a whole bunch of other entrepreneurs that understood and were further along in their journeys than I was, and so like
yeah.
my support system wasn't local at all. It was people from all over the place that I met on little Zoom boxes. But like those people felt more like
Nice.
family than a lot of people from where I'm from. One, because they
Yeah,
understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur, which I feel like is very hard to find in the world because only about 1 or 2% of us are entrepreneurs. So it's like even though someone
yeah.
understands, I don't care what no one says, you can never truly understand unless you've been through it or been through something similar. And it's like
Hmm.
because no one really is an entrepreneur, it makes it very hard for you to resonate and be able to confide in people that not only you trust, but also you trust and understand. Like trust, to find people to trust nowadays is already hard to do, and I gotta find someone that I trust and also understands like this entrepreneurship stuff. So like,
Hmm.
what was that support system like for you when you were getting your business off the ground, when you were going from that blue Ford to the Mercedes at the parties?
that's, that's funny. The blue Ford Focus. You know that car got lost in this, like the city picked it up and I never got it back.
Really?
Such a sad story. It didn't have insurance. It didn't have the registration. And then my ex boyfriend, he was like, "Can I borrow your car? I'm gonna go to the gas station." And I was at the club, and I was like, "No, because I'm gonna sell it." Actually, I was gonna sell it, and he was like, "I'm just gonna use it for the gas station." And this guy took it to the south side, and they picked it up because they didn't have like insurance or registration. So,
Dang.
R.I.P. Blue car, R.I.P. So when I was like navigating my first entrepreneurship journey, I was like, coming out of the strip club, I thought I had it all figured out. I was like, I know what
Yeah.
I'm doing. I watched a YouTube video. I was so
Yeah.
ignorant. And I remember like I chose the fitness because everybody was like, "You always work out. You always work out. You should be a fitness coach, right? You should." And it goes back to not listening to what others have to say, but what you really want to do, right? And so when other people were telling me, "You should be a fitness coach. You should be a fitness. You should be a personal trainer. You're so good at the personal training. Like you're always working out." Just because you work out doesn't mean you have to be a personal trainer. I'm just saying, because
Yeah.
I learned that it took a lot more skill, and I didn't have those skills, like selling, making offers, closing, looking for clients, leads, all that stuff. I didn't have that. And so I just assumed that it was just going to come to me. So for the first year, I didn't make a single dollar. And I was like living off my savings. And so I was like, okay, I'm down to my $35,000. Um, by next year, I won't have this money. Like, I need to invest it somewhere that's going to give me a good ROI. The first thing I did was pay for my citizenship, right? Because obviously I was like, I need to get an LLC, I need to get all this stuff. So that was like my first investment. But then I remember like not knowing where to put the money. And if I would have had mentors, if I would have asked the questions to the right people, I probably would have some property investing right now. But I didn't. And it took me about a year to find people that I could actually like ask for advice, like CPAs, bookkeepers, all that stuff, what I would do with my money. But in the first year, I didn't have a support system. And it took me so long, John, it took me 7 hours one time because I thought I had to know all the ins and out of my business, right? Because I'm the entrepreneur. No one knows my business like I do. I had this huge, massive, like perception that I was going to be the one carrying all the hats because that's what a business owner does. I'm a boss babe. Shit, it took me 7 hours to figure out what www dot blank.com meant. It was a domain. And I was like, what is a domain? What's a domain? I even Googled it. What is a domain? And it would take me to like www.com. And I was like, it took me that long. But for the first year, I didn't do anything. So my support system was not there. It wasn't until the second and third year that I found people that I could be like asking questions to and reading more books. Actually, I'll take that back. I did read and got an Audible and listened to some books, but I couldn't reach out to those authors.
Yeah. It's
So
hard.
now I preach about asking for help.
And so to that point though, so I don't know about you, but I grew up in a household where my grandma told me all the time, like, John, when you're at someone's house, like, don't ever ask for anything, and even if they offer, say no. Like that was instilled in me very early on. Just like don't take anything from anyone. Just like always, just be there, have a good time, enjoy. But if they offer something, like no, thank you, right? And definitely don't ask for anything, right? And it's just like it took a while to be willing to to be even able to act. And sometimes it's like I think also part of it's being a man. It's like this is like I feel like a lot of trials and tribulations that you got to just go through alone and tough it out and figure it out on your own. But like also having growing up with that, like that was something I had to unwire and reprogram, recondition. So it's like, was there anything like that for you, or did you just like not have any care in terms of when it came to asking questions, or were you not hesitant to ask questions?
I mean, it's part. I guess it's part of the culture, but it was like, um, okay. So check this out. And I talked about this one time in a talk I gave. It was like they always told me, "Calladita te ves más bonita." Basically, like the if you're quiet, you look more pretty. And they tell these two little girls, and they would tell me, you look prettier when you're quiet. So I was quiet as a mouse because I wanted to be the pretty one. And I remember when I would voice my opinions, they were like, "Oh, like you're the smallest one. Like, what do you know about that?" Right? And so they would just kind of like knock down everything I had to say. So I never really wanted to talk to anyone. So when it came down to being a business owner, I was like, I don't want to talk to anyone because if I'm pretty and I'm quiet, it'll come to me. And so it was like that limiting self belief that like if you're quiet and you look prettier. And so then I remember my mom would tell me like, that's crazy. Oh, that's too crazy. Oh, you're doing too much. It's too much. It's crazy. So I thought like if I start a business and it's successful, or if I ask for someone for help, they're gonna say, oh, that's crazy. Like you're asking too many questions, right? So it
Mhm.
was a lot of limiting self beliefs that I had to break free of. Like the fact that I had to ask people for their credit card to run it and pay myself. I was like, I know, what if it's too expensive? Like I would doubt my own prices. I was like, because I know it was like, no le cobres mucho. Like don't charge a lot. I was like, damn. Like, do they even have this kind of money? Like,
Yeah.
it was a lot to release and declutter and yeah.
Yeah, that's as I said. Like I definitely resonate with that as well. My first, no, my second class teaching social media, I was teaching class on intro to TikTok, and towards the end, I opened it up for Q&A. And now the class was free.
Nice,
I had about 100. I think I had like 400 people register, 185 people on a Zoom call live. And towards the end, one of my friends, she's a millionaire real estate agent down in Maryland, and she was
nice.
like, John, mind you, live in front of everyone, never ever do another one of these again without charging. Like live in front of everyone. And I'm just like, hey. But then she goes, all right, John, like, what's your Zelle, your Cash App, or like, what's your what's the other one? Zelle, Cash App, is it PayPal? No, not
Venmo.
PayPal. Venmo. They're like, what's your Venmo? All the more experienced people, like they use Venmo. She's like, what's your Venmo? Right, like put it in the chat so we can like pay you or something like that. And I never felt so cringy in my life, and I kept telling myself like, no, like this is just my way of giving back to the community, like this is my way of pouring back into you guys. And it's just like I later found out like that for me was me just not feeling worthy enough to charge, and it took me a minute to get over that. But yeah, similar to you, like I was like, I don't know,
Breakthrough.
like, and it wasn't until
Mm.
this year in January I taught a ChatGPT webinar. Well, 2023 in January, I taught a ChatGPT webinar. At the end of it, I upsold to a workshop, and it was 20 spots, 197 a spot, sold out within 24 hours. I taught a free webinar, upsold to the paid workshop.
Sheesh.
And I was like, all right, I could still keep teaching free classes, and make crazy money
Mm-hmm.
on the back
Yep.
end. And so that's when that was my epiphany. I was like, all right, I'm just going about this the wrong way. And that's when it all changed for me.
Yep.
But Maria, man, you have an amazing story. We're definitely gonna have to bring you back on to get more into the entrepreneurship side of things. But where can we find you at? Where can we connect you with you at if we want to learn more about your story and what you got going
Yep.
on?
Well, it was really nice being on this podcast and catching up with you after our last dance session and rap battle. I don't know if your audience knows this, but John got some bars. Like, he's got interesting Jesus bars. And that was an amazing experience with you. Like, so people can find me on Instagram. Now I'm back on Instagram at The Real Maria Rods. You can find me on Facebook as The Real Maria Rods. You can find me on LinkedIn at Coach Maria Rods. It's a whole bunch of rods. Oh, YouTube at The Real Maria Rods. And I would love to help you guys, and hopefully that we can connect and most definitely, get together and see where it is that you're stuck in your journey, because sometimes when you're stuck in your journey, you feel like there's no avenues, and and you have kids in the back, right? Just playing with dogs and stuff. And if you're a parent and like you have a job and you're like, I want to do this, what Maria's doing with her kids in the back, and be at home with them present, then you could definitely reach out to me. And you'll find my Calendly link on the show notes of this episode, because this is like, although they're annoying right now because they're playing with a freaking dog, and and they're in the back, I'm with them and I get to teach them and I get to homeschool them and I get to cook for them. And they eat my stale spaghetti, but like, hey, it's all good because we're together, right? And side note, I actually took my daughter to an event. It was a real estate investor event this weekend. this girl was connecting with everyone and taking pictures, and she got to connect with a lot of like people. And so she got to hear Wes Watson. She took a lot of notes, and so as a mother, as a parent, you want to be involved in their life, and you want to give them that future that you didn't have. So if you're maybe stuck at a job and you're like, I want to see my kid, like I want to spend those years with them, and I want them to be amazing, like entrepreneurs, owners, boss people, then you need to get with me because I already did it. These kids are on their way out. One of them already wants to be a life coach. The other one wants to be a vet. 18, baby, I'm out.
That's how you do
You
it. 18,
ready?
pack them up and get them out of there, right?
You got a career. Let's go.
And then, so, all right, so now it's time to move to our lightning round, right? The famous 5 questions. Question number one. Don't worry, I don't got anything. I'm not out to get you. Question number one is,
Right.
what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
The most impactful lesson I've learned in life: all of your actions have consequences. Every single action that you make, every single one of them, from the moment that you read to your kids when you're pregnant to the moment that you pick up trash outside, because it's not your trash, but every single moment has a decision, and every single moment impacts you. And yeah, you impact the environment, you impact your kids, but it impacts you and how you believe in yourself. And when you have that self-belief, that's like the big piece to achieving great things. So I think that the biggest wake up call was every single action has a reaction, and it could mold me or it could break me.
What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
Discipline. Discipline. Yeah. I admire bodybuilders. I admire people that have overcome everything despite the fact that they had all this stuff happen to them. Like, we're still here and I'm going to show up. And you say you're going to do it and you do it. I think that is just like creme de la creme.
Yeah. No, 100%, 100%. Being a person of your word. Question number three is, if you had to change someone's life, but you only had one book to do it, which book would you recommend?
How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
What is the legacy that you're working on leaving behind?
I am going to be the first billionaire in my family, and my kids are going to be billionaires, and my grandkids are going to be trillionaires. And we're going to look back and they're going to have a beautiful portrait of me and say, that woman has a story.
And for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth today, what is the first step you recommend they take?
If you're walking from, if you're on your way to wealth, can you repeat that question? Because I got
For
lost.
someone that wants to embark, meaning so someone that wants to start right on their walk to wealth today, what is the first step you would recommend they take?
You work on yourself. I look, take a really good look at everything you got, and don't sugarcoat it, because I know I'm pretty and I can get, no, 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 no. I am pretty, but I'm freaking lazy and I hate the gym. Write down everything that you suck at and then better those things and learn some skills. But it all has to start with you, because sooner or later people are going to find out that you're a fraud and you suck, and you only get one chance. Once they find out that you are a shitty, sucky person, they won't ever trust you, and you're going to ruin everything that you could have accomplished. So work on yourself first.
Amen. Maria, thanks again for hopping on the podcast. It was an amazing time catching up with you. As I said, we definitely got to do another one of these to get more into the entrepreneurship stuff that you got going on. But in the
Yeah,
meantime, definitely let's keep staying in touch.
got it.